Okay, today's welcome to Sprint 106 review. Let's get started. So I'll do the sprint statistics. Carol's going to do the update for the community. Harpreet's going to do UI. Adam on providers. Tina on automate. Joe V on platform. Alberto on REST API. And let's do the stats. So seems like this is typical of what we always see with integration tests being at the top of the line, and sometimes it just flips around between those three. So here we see that we're ramping up on PRs open and also merged, which is a good thing. And here's the distribution of types of PRs merged. So we can see we're working on bugs, enhancements, and documentation is at the top of the three as well. And not much of a change with the health report. This has been consistent the past 3 or 4 sprints, so in some ways that's a good thing. And on to Carol.
All right, thank you, John. So for the community update, we have a list of events coming up, and David will be purring at 3 Ruby events. First one in, I think, Wrocław, Poland. I cannot pronounce that city name. And then in Minsk, Belarus, and Chisinau, Moldova. I think he's trying to challenge me with all the different city names here. So yeah, in the next few weeks, end of this month and beginning of next month. So that's that. And for ManageIQ, we have a couple of events coming up with some kind of presence. First is at Falls North in Gothenburg. It's actually more with UX focus. I'm working with Teresa to have some kind of survey or UX thing at the event to get feedback from the usage of ManageIQ. And I think David and Teresa's talk is also accepted. Just heard about it today. That's why I didn't have a chance to put that in. I'll give more information next time. And of course, the Red Hat Summit, the Community Central, we will have our usual IQ booth and demo there in Boston in May. So, and that's all from me today. Thanks, and next slide, please.
Hello, everyone. So we had a total of 45 UI PRs merged during the sprint. Out of that, 18 were bug fixes and 4 enhancements and so on. On the bug fixes, memory utilization CAPNU charts for Amazon availability zones that were removed previously due to lack of backend support were added back in the product. A fix was made to display a missing request deny button on request details screen. There was an issue fixed while loading catalog item summary screen for the items that had the template deleted that they were pointing at. So that got fixed, and also an endpoint URL support was added for Azure providers. And on the service summary screen, elapsed time calculations were showing incorrect time, so that got fixed. And finally, a fix was made on add new action screen in Control Explorer. On the enhancement side, an entry point selector tree in dialog editor was reworked so that when going back to edit a dialog, tree is loaded with all the correct nodes. And support to be able to print or export a PDF was added on VM right size recommendation screen. And for the next 2 enhancements, I have screenshots, so I'll talk over those. So next slide, please. There were few enhancements made to conversion hosts list view during the sprints. Remove and log download buttons were added for conversion hosts. So as you can see, there's a remove button in the screenshot on the left, and at the bottom right, you can see a confirmation pop-up dialog, and above that is an error message dialog to display any errors encountered while trying to perform the action. Next slide, please. And on the conversion host configuration wizard, a fourth step to show the results was added. So as you can see on the screenshot on the left, it shows the starting of the conversion host configuration with the loading spinner. And then if everything went well, it shows the progress with the clock icon. And if the API returned an error immediately, it just shows the error messages in the wizard. And that's all I have for the UI. Next slide.
Thanks. So this sprint, Overt, VMware, and OpenStack had the most merged PRs. Next slide, please. On the OpenStack side, they allow the user to choose a network port when doing a VM provision. On Overt, they added a mapping state for powering up. It was found that VMs that required a BIOS password to be entered couldn't complete the power up state because they couldn't open the console to open it. And so we added a powering up state. Usually this is just passed right through, but now we actually map it to on so that they can open the console. We also fixed a bug on Rev 4.3 where VMs weren't being mapped to clusters. The cluster href format changed, and so we weren't doing the link. So we changed it to do a lookup on the cluster by ID, which is more robust. And on VMware, we set EMS attributes like the UID EMS and the API version through an inventory collection as opposed to doing a direct database update in the parser, which we're trying to get away from. Next slide. On Amazon, as Harpreet mentioned, we fixed memory usage charts. The VM model didn't have the memory MP available attribute so that the charts weren't showing up, so we added that back. And generally across all providers, we've removed all instances of the old manager refresh class. This was refactored out into the base refresher class, and so we cleared out all the old classes. And we fixed the deprecation warning in save inventory where we're passing a parameter to the association to reload it. In 5.1, that's going away, and so now you just call reload on the association. And that's it. Over to Tina for automate.
Thanks, Adam. Good morning. We had 12 PRs merged this sprint. James moved the V2V throttling code from the content repo to the back end. Drew Yu completed the back-end work for copying a service template. The UI work is in progress. MIQ request stored the user information of the requester. Drew fixed an issue where the MIQ requester user had been deleted, which caused a problem in retirement. And finally, Drew fixed the service bundle retirement issue for orchestration services. That's it for Automate. Next slide and over to Joe.
Thank you, Tina. There were 15 PRs merged this sprint in the platform space, the highlights of which are Nick C made a couple of performance improvements by replacing the base metrics table with a view, and Libor made a PR to expand currency support from 18 to 164 for chargeback reports. Joar and Yuri continued the effort to move us to Rails 5.1, and some technical debt was addressed with PRs by Julian to deprecate RSS feeds using the backend, using reports as the backend instead. And Libor moved column formatting out of the report generator to the API. Next slide, please. For bug fixes, Yuri fixed a bug where the start on column was empty in VM power on tasks. Yuri fixed another bug where some user content disappeared when changing time zones. A couple of changes were made to the appliance console CLI that addressed issues with signed certs. These changes still have to be rolled out to the appliance console gem. And lastly, Brandon bumped us to the latest version of the ManageIQ API client gem, which pulled in an API fix where multiple user logins had been logged. And that's it for the platform group. On to Alberto for the rest of the story.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, it never gets old, I tell you. So, yeah, for the API side of things, we had one enhancement that came in from Dan B. So this was the ability to enable and disable conversion hosts. So, the create and delete part of the CRUD were updated to trigger that. And this was needed by the V2V project, so needed to be It also ensures that the database is consistent upon deletion and all that goodness. So anyways, it's standard to create the signature, doing a post on API conversion host here, and the deletes for single and multiple bulk deletes. So standard for signature, but the enablement and disablement is done with the regular task creation in the backend. And that's it for the API. Next slide, please.
Okay, that ends Sprint 106. Our next sprint review is in 2 weeks on March 20th. That's it. Thanks.